From 1878 to 1968, there were 71 lake captains that called Bayview, Wisconsin, on the shore of Lake Michigan, their home. While they lived here, they captained 195 different ships, from tugboats to schooners to steamships, in voyages that took them to every one of the Great Lakes. Join us now for another episode of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we explore not only these captains, but also their ships, their homes, their families, and their lifetime of sailing adventures on the Great Lakes. Welcome back to another episode of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains. I'm your host, Doug Mintline. Today I'm standing in front of Captain William Wright's house on Logan Avenue over by Humboldt Park. Now, Captain Wright, at the time he lived in this house, captained the largest steamship in Milwaukee. There was also another captain in Bayview, Edward Brownell, that captained the largest steamship ever built in Milwaukee. Both Bayview Lake captains. Anyway, what's interesting about this house, and like most captains, William Wright and others lived in different houses. I've selected what I think is the most interesting thing that happened while they lived here. But while he lived here, he was in a collision with another Bayview Lake captain, Stephen Brownell, on the Detroit River one night at 2 a.m. Captain Wright's ship, the bigger ship, had barely a scratch, while Captain Brownell's ship went to the bottom. And before it went to the bottom, the dog mascot aboard ran in front of everybody's cabin to wake him up and to tell him to get out. Everybody made it except for the dog. So this is an important story in Bayview maritime history, and Captain Wright was part of it. Remember, there's more details in the book with all the footnotes, for sale on Amazon, volume by volume. It was 650 pages total, and I am publishing them in order to match up with these YouTube releases, so volume by volume. I get none of the money. It all goes to the sponsor of this video, the Historic Bayview Lake Captains Society, to help us put a plaque up with all the captains' names on it, a sculpture of the dog that was talked about in this episode, the hero dog, and the historic marker designating this part of Bayview where all the lake captains were as the nation's first ever National Historic Lake Captains District. Bayview can be first, so let's go for it. Okay, that's all. Take care, and remember, hats off to our Bayview Lake captains. Bye-bye.
Welcome to another installment of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we discuss the lives of the 71 different lake captains that once lived in Bayview, Wisconsin, during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, in the age of sail and steam. This discussion will include their ships, their homes, their families, and their lifetime of sailing adventures on the Great Lakes. Here is the map of Lake Captain's homes in Bayview to show you where this episode takes place. Its location focuses primarily on the large green arrow. Today we will be discussing the life of Captain William E. Wright. From 1901 to 03, he moved to 2958 South Logan Avenue, captaining the steamship Christopher. This ship was the biggest steamer in Milwaukee. William Wright was its first captain. He also took over as captain of 2 ships from 2 different Bayview Lake captains. He also collided at night in the fog with a former Bayview Lake captain's ship as they attempted to pass on the Detroit River. Though the other ship sank, everyone aboard escaped safely except for that ship's little dog mascot that had bravely barked as the ship was going down so that everyone could get out. William Wright was also one of 2 Bayview Lake captains that tried his hand at cattle ranching in the American Southwest. Captain William E. Wright was born in Canada in April 1866. His father was born in England and his mother in Ireland. It is not known if he had any siblings. He immigrated in 1882 at age 16 and later became a naturalized U.S. citizen, though the exact date of naturalization is unknown. After immigrating, it is unknown where he lived for the next 10 years, 1882 to 92, though it was likely Milwaukee. This is due to his association with ships during this time frame that were connected to other Milwaukee captains, indicating those ships were likely home-ported in Milwaukee. The names of these ships, his dates aboard, and his position on them are as follows. The lumber steamship C.H. Green, pre-1890, mate. The steamship Helena, unknown start date, to 25th October 1890, mate, working under fellow Bayview Lake Captain James Leask. The steamship Veronica, 26th October 1890 to 8th of October 1891, captain. Relieved Bayview Lake Captain Hugh Clark, who took command of the steamship Flint and Pear Marquette No. 2. The steamship Helena, 9th of October 1891 to probably 31st January 1892, captain, relieving Bayview Lake Captain James Leask, who became ill in Detroit. The tow barge Helena, which is different from the steamship Helena, 1st of February 1892 to probably 20th of November 1892, captain, and the tugboat Henry, 21st of November 1892 to unknown end date, captain. The first address that appears anywhere for William Wright is in Bayview at 2479 South Austin Street in 1893, working as a lake captain. From this first appearance in 1893, he would remain living in Bayview for the rest of his life, except for 1 year when he tried his hand at cattle ranching in New Mexico. He was also a lake captain during this entire time in Bayview, 1893 to 1919, when he died. While living on Austin Street from 1893 to 95, the ships he captained are unknown. From 1896 to 1900, he moved to 2477 South Burrell Street and captained 2 ships. The first was the steamship Neosho from 1897 to 99. The second ship was the steamship Helena from 1900 to early 1901. Of interest, this is the same Burrell Street address for fellow Bayview Lake Captain Hawley Boyce when he lived there from 1891 to 93. From 1901 to 03, he moved to 2958 South Logan Avenue, captaining the steamship Christopher. This ship was the biggest steamer in Milwaukee. William Wright was its first captain. During his first year as captain of the Christopher, while living at 2958 South Logan Avenue, William Wright had an adventure on the lakes he preferred not to remember. Then he changed houses to a different one, still on South Logan Avenue, 2761, from 1904 to 11, captaining the steamships Christopher and W.D. Matthews. In 1912, he moved to 2976 South Superior Street, continuing as captain of the Christopher. The following year, 1913, he returned yet again to 2761 South Logan Avenue, still as captain of the Christopher. Just 3 years later, at 2:20 a.m. on 15th August 1916, while still living at 2761 South Logan Avenue and captaining the steamship Christopher, William Wright was involved in a major collision in the Detroit River, in darkness and fog, with another steamship, the Topeka, captained by former Bayview Lake captain Stephen Brownell. The Christopher was steel-hulled, while the Topeka's hull was made of wood, and therefore stood no chance. The Topeka sank in 4 minutes. However, due to the valiant efforts of the Topeka's little dog mascot, that barked so loudly to wake everyone up, all aboard the Topeka escaped to safety before the ship went down, except the little dog. See a special future episode about this event. William Wright was subsequently found negligent in the accident and retired the next year, in 1917, to New Mexico to become a cattle rancher. But after only a year on the ranch, he returned to 2761 South Logan Avenue in 1918 to become captain of the possible tugboat Escort through 1919. Regarding his family life, William Wright married wife Mary in 1893. She was born in Ireland in 1868 and immigrated the same year he did, 1882. They had 3 children, 2 sons, Albert and William, and 1 daughter, Kathleen. Daughter Kathleen graduated from the University of Wisconsin in 1916 and began teaching English and German at Hurley High School. 3 years later, in 1919, she became an English teacher at St. Clair's College in Sinissawa, Wisconsin. Son William became a Christian minister in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. Captain William E. Wright died at the Gary, Indiana Hospital on 27th of March, 1919, age 53. He sailed the Great Lakes for about 36 years, 28 as a lake captain, of which 25 were while he lived in Bayview. He had also been very active in the Milwaukee chapter of the International Shipmasters Association for many years, along with being a member of the Marine Benevolent Association and the Whale Club. Wife Mary continued to live on at the house on Logan Avenue for another 17 years, until she turned 68 in 1936, then moved to Beaver Dam to live with son William. She died 2 years later, in 1938, age 70. Funeral services were held, and her body was displayed at daughter Kathleen's home on Stowell Avenue in Milwaukee. A Requiem High Mass, held at Immaculate Conception Church, was sung by her son, the Reverend William Wright. Both she, her husband Captain William, and sons Albert and Reverend William are buried together at Milwaukee's Holy Cross Cemetery. Thanks for watching. This photograph isn't about Bayview or its lake captains, but it's from the same era of Great Lakes maritime history. We thought we'd close with it for enjoyment, as it captures the spirit of the era. This channel and its matching website also plan to support various maritime history projects related to Bayview's lake captains. One of these is a plaque and marker with the captains' names and addresses on it, as part of the creation of the Bayview Lake Captains Historic District, which will be the first of its kind in America. If you would like to donate to support these projects, to include this and other markers honoring Bayview's lake captains, with 100% of all donations and contributions in all forms going to support them, please consider donating to us through the listings shown next. If, for some reason, we are unable to secure these markers, then all funds donated to this site will be given as a cash donation to the museum ship SS City of Milwaukee in Manistee, Michigan. That is the only surviving intact ship once captained by at least 2 and likely 3 different Bayview Lake captains. I'm Simon Stanhope, narrator for these episodes. Join us again soon for the next chapter of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains.